All right, folks, let's dive into something that's affecting every single one of us, whether we realize it or not. I'm talking about income inequality, that growing gap between those who are making it big and those who are struggling just to get by. Now, this isn't just about who's got the nicest house or the fanciest car. It's about opportunities. It's about what kind of future our kids will have. It's about how fair the system really is. Picture this. You've got people working 2, maybe even 3 jobs just to keep the lights on and put food on the table, while others are out there, often with way less effort, reaping massive financial rewards. You might think, well, that's just how life goes, but is it really? Does it have to be this way? And here's the kicker. What does this widening gap mean for our society as a whole? When you look closer, it becomes more than just an issue of money. It's an issue of power. Think about how much control money buys. It affects the schools our kids go to, the neighborhoods we live in, and even the healthcare we can afford. But if we dig a little deeper, we start to see a whole system that seems to keep people in certain places. The people at the top of the income ladder, those who are earning the most, often have the resources, connections, and influence to keep the system working in their favor, while everyone else is left to figure it out on their own. You can't ignore that kind of power imbalance. It's like a game where the rules are constantly shifting to benefit the people who are already winning, and that leaves so many folks on the sidelines. And yeah, the conversation often starts with, what can I do to make more money? But in reality, it's not always about working harder or being smarter. It's often about where you were born, what kind of opportunities you had, and let's be real, luck. So the big question I want us all to think about today is, what happens if we keep letting this gap grow? How does that shape the country we all live in? When the middle class is shrinking and the wealth is consolidating into fewer and fewer hands, the American dream starts looking a lot less attainable for millions of people. And listen, I know some people are going to say, this is just capitalism at work, or if you want more, work harder. But let's be honest, not everyone has access to the same tools, the same education, or even the same shot at success. Is that fair? And more importantly, is that sustainable for a society that prides itself on giving everyone an equal opportunity to succeed? Today, we're going to take a closer look at what's causing this disparity in income. Everything from technological changes and the rise of automation to shifts in our economy that have made certain skills extremely valuable while leaving others behind. We're also going to explore the consequences. This isn't just an academic exercise. It's a real look at how income inequality is changing lives, affecting mental health, influencing politics, and reshaping the very fabric of American society. At the end of the day, this is about more than just who has what. It's about what kind of society we want to be. Is it one where success is accessible to all, or one where success is just for the lucky few? All right, so let's break down some of the big factors behind this massive gap in income that's shaping the world around us. There's a lot to it, way more than just pointing fingers or saying it's one group's fault or another. It's like this. As technology and automation have advanced, whole industries and job markets have changed. Think about it. We're living in a time when machines and algorithms are doing tasks that humans used to do. For some people, this is incredible news. If you're in a field where your skills complement these technologies, you might be thriving right now. Maybe you're a software engineer, data analyst, or working in a field that's in demand because of the tech boom. But for millions of others, particularly those working in manufacturing or other hands, on jobs, the shift has hit hard. Suddenly, jobs that once paid the bills, supported families, and built the middle class are either gone or paying way less. These folks didn't ask for their jobs to become obsolete, yet here they are trying to adapt, often without the support or training they need. And here's the thing, our economy has transformed into this knowledge-based, tech-driven beast, and it rewards people with certain skills way more than others. We're seeing massive salaries and benefits for people in highly specialized roles, while the wages in service are manual labor jobs. Jobs that keep society running, barely keep up with the cost of living. A lot of these high-paying jobs require a certain level of education, experience, or connections that just aren't available to everyone. So right out of the gate, you've got a divide between people who can access the tools and resources to get these in-demand jobs and people who can't. And if you didn't grow up with those opportunities or the money to pursue them, it's tough to break in. Now, layer on top of that the way wealth is being concentrated at the top. The richest folks in our society, those who control the biggest companies and assets, are accumulating more wealth than ever. This isn't just because they're working harder or smarter than anyone else. They're benefiting from a system that allows them to leverage their wealth in ways most of us can't. Take taxes, for example. The ultra wealthy have access to financial tools, legal loopholes, and tax breaks that everyday workers don't. It's like they're playing a completely different game where the rules bend to benefit them. And we're not just talking about a little extra money. We're talking about billions of dollars, in some cases, money that could otherwise contribute to schools, infrastructure, healthcare, or job training programs that would help everyone. Instead, it's sitting in private accounts, benefiting a small few while everyone else struggles to get by. And if we're going to be real here, we've got to talk about education. Education is supposed to be the great equalizer, right? But the truth is the cost of college has skyrocketed. People are going into crazy amounts of debt just to get a degree. And for a lot of folks, even that degree doesn't guarantee a good paying job. On top of that, we have a public school system that's wildly uneven. In wealthy neighborhoods, the schools are funded, resourced, and give kids a head start in life. But in lower income communities, schools are often underfunded, understaffed, and lacking in resources. We're basically setting people up from a young age to either have every advantage or struggle to catch up. Mm-hmm. That's a tough pill to swallow because it shows how early the cards get stacked in favor of some over others. The people who can afford private schools or live in well-funded districts are getting the education and skills needed to step into high-paying jobs, while others are left with limited choices. This isn't some abstract theory. It's our reality. We've got a system where, whether we like to admit it or not, some people are born into better chances at success than others. And once they're on that path, everything, the wealth, the education, the job market, it all kind of feeds back into itself, keeping the rich richer and making it tougher for everyone else to climb up. We've got to start asking ourselves, how did we get here and what are we going to do about it? Because if we just keep saying that's just the way things are, then this gap is only going to keep growing. And that has real consequences, not just for the people at the bottom, but for all of us. So let's talk about the fallout. Income inequality isn't just a set of numbers or something economists worry about. It's shaping the way people live, feel, and interact every single day. When we have a society where a small group holds the majority of the wealth, it affects so many layers of life that we don't always see right away. One of the biggest impacts, health. You might not think that your paycheck has anything to do with your health, but the reality is people who struggle financially are often dealing with way more stress, anxiety, and even depression than those who are comfortable. When you're constantly worried about bills, about whether your paycheck will cover rent or groceries, it wears on you. And this isn't just mental stress from financial strain, takes a toll on physical health too. Heart disease, diabetes, even life expectancy are tied to income. People in lower income communities often don't have the same access to quality healthcare or nutritious food. So it's no surprise that they're facing more health challenges. When you're struggling to get by, finding the time or money for a doctor's visit, gym membership, or fresh food is a luxury that just isn't realistic. And that's just one layer of how this whole inequality thing starts messing with people's lives. But beyond health, think about what happens when communities start feeling this divide. When there's a real sense that some people are living in one world and everyone else is left out. Income inequality has a nasty way of making us feel like we're on opposing teams. It's hard not to look at those who seem to have it all and wonder, why them and not me? And for those who are on the other side, there's often a fear of losing what they have. It creates this underlying tension, a sense of division and distrust between groups of people, even within the same city or town. People start feeling like the system isn't just stacked against them, but that it's actively keeping them down. This feeling of unfairness chips away at the fabric of society, because at the end of the day, if we don't believe that we're all in this together, it's a lot easier to stop caring about each other. You see this play out in all sorts of ways, from people checking out of politics entirely, thinking their voices don't matter, to communities feeling disconnected and divided. We stop believing in the idea of unity. And when that happens, we lose a big part of what makes society strong. And let's be real, there's an economic cost to this too. When people at the bottom of the income ladder are barely scraping by, they're not spending money on things like going out to eat, buying new clothes, or supporting local businesses. That has a huge impact on the economy. When you don't have money to spend, businesses suffer, and that creates a ripple effect. If people don't have disposable income, the economy slows down, and that ultimately impacts everyone, not just the people struggling. We're all interconnected. We need a strong middle class with spending power for the economy to grow in a healthy, sustainable way. But when more and more of the wealth is going to the top, the middle class shrinks and spending drops. This cycle, if left unchecked, leads to an economy that's fragile, where prosperity is limited to a handful of people while everyone else feels like they're just surviving. And here's the scariest part. This isn't just a short-term issue. Income inequality is setting up the next generation to face even bigger challenges. Kids who grow up in low-income households start life with a disadvantage. They're often in underfunded schools, facing barriers to higher education, and dealing with the same health and stress issues that impacted their parents. This cycle of limited opportunities and financial strain keeps repeating, locking families into a cycle that's nearly impossible to escape from. What does that mean for our future? It means we're looking at a society where upward mobility is becoming less of a reality and more of a dream. The American dream, the idea that if you work hard, you can get ahead, is slipping further and further out of reach for too many people. And that's not just unfair, it's unsustainable. A country can't thrive if its people don't feel like they have a fair shot at success. So while income inequality might seem like just another economic term, the truth is it's a very real, very human issue that affects the quality of life, the health of our communities, and the strength of our nation. If we don't start addressing these consequences now, we're setting ourselves up for a future that looks a lot less united, a lot less hopeful, and a lot less American. All right, so now that we've covered the causes and the fallout, let's get to the big question. What can we actually do about income inequality? This isn't just some abstract issue we're supposed to accept as part of modern life. There are real, tangible changes that can actually make a difference if we're willing to look at them seriously. First off, let's talk about taxes. Now, I know nobody loves the idea of paying more taxes. It's like the least popular topic at any dinner table. But here's the reality. We've got to start thinking about a fair tax system, especially when it comes to those at the very top. Right now, we've got people making insane amounts of money, far more than they could ever spend in a lifetime, who are paying a smaller share of their income in taxes than people in the middle class. That just doesn't add up. We're not talking about punishing success. We're talking about reinvesting some of that wealth back into the country that allowed them to become successful in the first place. Imagine if those extra tax dollars went towards things that helped everyone, better schools, healthcare infrastructure, training programs. It's not about taking away. It's about making sure everyone has a fair shot at a good life. And it's not just about taxes. Let's talk about education, because if there's one thing that can actually level the playing field, it's making sure everyone has access to high quality education. Right now, college costs are out of control, and for a lot of families, taking on debt for school is a risky gamble, not a guarantee of success. We need to start thinking about ways to make education more affordable, whether that's through more state funding for public colleges or programs that forgive student debt for people entering certain fields. And beyond college, we've got to invest in vocational training and skills programs that prepare people for the jobs that are actually out there. Not everyone is going to go to a 4-year university, and that's okay. But they should still have opportunities to build a stable, well-paying career. Imagine if we had robust training programs in fields like technology, healthcare, and renewable energy. We'd not only be giving people a shot at economic security, but we'd also be setting up our workforce to meet the demands of a modern economy. And let's not forget local economies. Income inequality has left so many communities behind, particularly in rural areas and inner cities where jobs have dried up. One thing we could do is provide incentives for businesses to invest in these communities, whether that's through tax breaks for companies that create jobs in underdeveloped areas or grants for small businesses that are trying to get off the ground. Small businesses are the backbone of the American economy, but they're struggling to survive in a world where big corporations dominate the market. Imagine if we made it easier for these local businesses to grow and hire. We'd be creating jobs, lifting communities, and spreading opportunity more evenly. When people have stable, good paying jobs in their own communities, it creates a positive ripple effect that boosts everyone around them. It builds pride, security, and a sense of shared purpose, things that go way beyond the paycheck. But beyond all of these policies and programs, there's something even bigger at play here. We've got to start shifting our mindset. We live in a culture that glorifies wealth, that treats billionaires like rock stars, and that sometimes forgets to value the people who do essential work every day. The teachers, the nurses, the factory workers, the farmers. Addressing income inequality means rethinking what we truly value as a society. It's about remembering that everyone's contribution has worth, not just the people at the top. If we start valuing each other's work, if we start recognizing that success shouldn't only be measured by the size of your bank account, we create a culture where inequality has less room to grow. So yeah, tackling income inequality is a big, complicated challenge. It's going to take policy changes, investment, and a real commitment to shifting the way we think about wealth and success. But it's not impossible. The good news is we have the tools and the resources to create a fairer society. The question is, do we have the will? Are we ready to stop seeing this as someone else's problem and recognize that inequality affects all of us? If we start acting now, we can build a future where everyone has a chance to thrive, where success isn't determined by the zip code you're born into, and where the American dream is alive and well for anyone who's willing to work for it. It's time we step up together and start building the kind of society we can all be proud of. All right, so let's bring it all home. We've talked about the causes of income inequality, the very real consequences it's having on people's lives in our society, and some of the solutions we might pursue to make things fairer. But here's the real question: where do we go from here? Because talking about income inequality isn't just an academic exercise or some abstract economic theory. This is about the kind of country we want to live in. It's about the values we hold as Americans. at the heart of it, most of us believe in fairness, that everyone deserves a fair shot, a chance to work hard and build a decent life. But when the deck feels stacked from the start, when so many people feel like they're trapped in a cycle they can't break out of, that basic belief in fairness is under threat. It's no longer just about money. It's about hope. It's about trust in each other, in our communities, and in the system we all live under. So here's the deal. Income inequality isn't just going to fix itself. If we ignore it, if we just accept it as the way things are, that gap is only going to keep widening and the consequences are going to keep growing. And that's not just bad news for the people at the bottom. It's bad for everyone. Society where a handful of people hold all the wealth and power is a society at risk of tearing itself apart. History shows us that. Look at any civilization in the past that let inequality get out of control, and you'll see the same patterns: division, resentment, a breakdown in trust, and eventually things fall apart. We don't have to let that happen here. We have the chance to recognize the problem, to address it head on, and to make changes that actually help people, real people with families, dreams, and the same right to a decent life as anyone else. This is about leaving behind a better future for the next generation. Imagine if we could say years down the road that we faced this challenge, that we took on this fight, and we made things better, that we didn't let income inequality get so out of hand that it divided us beyond repair. It's going to take effort, no doubt about it. It's going to mean we have some tough conversations, and it's going to mean that we rethink how we value success, how we reward work, and what kind of opportunities we want to create for people across this country. But think about what we'd gain, a society where people don't have to choose between paying rent and putting food on the table. A society where kids can dream big no matter where they're from or how much money their parents make. A society where we're proud of the opportunities we create and the fairness we uphold. This is our chance to shape that future, to build a country where the American dream isn't just a slogan, but something everyone can believe in. A future where we remember that we're all in this together. The strength of our society depends on lifting each other up, not leaving people behind. So let's get serious about income inequality. Let's start making changes that actually bring people closer together, that restore fairness, and that give everyone a real shot at a good life. Because if we do this right, we're not just fixing an economic problem. We're building a legacy, one where fairness, opportunity, and unity are more than just words. They're the reality we all live in. Let's make that happen